Crimson Desert launches in a week, and this is Pearl Abyss, putting everything on the line after years of development to prove they can deliver on a scope that most studios wouldn't even attempt. And the thing is, we're at this weird point where we've seen enough to know what this game is trying to be, but not enough to know if it actually works. We've got trailers showing insane production values, combat that looks legitimately technical and fast, boss fights on a scale that feels genuinely ambitious. That tension is what makes this launch so interesting to me. Because Crimson Desert isn't trying to be safe, it's not iterating on a proven formula with minor improvements. It's trying to do everything at once, and either it's going to work spectacularly, or it's going to be a complete disaster. There's no middle ground here. This game has you playing as Cliff, a member of the Greymane faction who gets absolutely destroyed in an ambush by their rivals, the Black Bears. Your comrades are dead or scattered across the continent, and you're trying to rebuild from nothing. That's the setup. Standard enough revenge and redemption narrative that we've seen before. But then you look at what they're building around that story, and it gets wild. The continent of Pywell is this massive open world with everything from plains and forests to deserts and mountains, cities and ruins. An entire mysterious realm called the Abyss that exists above the normal world where some kind of mystical imbalance is threatening everything. You can ride horses, dragons, mechs. You can climb walls and glide off cliffs. And that's before we even talk about the combat system. You can chain weapon attacks into bare-handed strikes and kicks. There's grappling, elemental enhancements, slides, dodges, counters that flow directly into your next attack. It's designed to be this fast, visceral action system where every split second matters. Then on top of that, you've got base building at the Greymane camp, cooking, fishing, hunting, mini-games with locals. Character customization with hairstyles and tattoos and outfits you can dye. Gathering resources to upgrade equipment. And you eventually get 2 more playable characters beyond Cliff who have completely different combat styles and can be used to explore the world and do side content. This game is trying to be everything. Fast, technical combat, massive open-world exploration, base management, character customization, multiple playable characters, crafting and survival mechanics. It's genuinely ambitious to the point where I'm simultaneously excited and terrified about whether they can pull it off. Because here's the reality. We've seen plenty of games with massive scope fail to deliver because they spread themselves too thin. They try to do 10 things and end up doing all of them poorly, instead of focusing on 2 or 3 core pillars and nailing those. Crimson Desert has more pillars than most games would even attempt, and we're 7 days away from finding out if they actually work together, or if the whole thing collapses under its own weight. What makes this even more interesting is the positioning. This isn't trying to be a Souls-like, even though the combat has some of that DNA. It's not trying to be Zelda, even though there are obvious comparisons in the open world structure. It's not trying to be Monster Hunter, even though you're fighting massive creatures. It's trying to be its own thing that pulls from all of these influences while maintaining its own identity. And that's risky, really risky, because when you're not clearly in an established genre, you don't have that built-in audience that knows exactly what to expect. You're asking people to trust that this unique combination of mechanics and systems is going to work without being able to point to a direct comparison and say, it's like that, but better. Pearl Abyss is betting everything on the execution, on the moment-to-moment feel of the combat, on the world being interesting enough to explore, on the story giving you reason to care about Cliff and the Greymans, on all these disparate systems coming together into something cohesive rather than feeling like a bunch of disconnected features thrown together. In 7 days we'll know if that bet paid off. We'll know if the combat feels as good as it looks in trailers, if the open world has enough meaningful content to justify its size, if the base building and crafting systems integrate naturally or feel tacked on, if the multiple playable characters add genuine variety or just fragment the experience, if the Abyss realm is a compelling addition or a confusing distraction from the main world, and the performance question. We'll know if this thing actually runs well on console and PC, or if the ambition exceeded what the technology could handle. Because you can have the best designed game in the world, but if it runs at 20 frames per second with constant stuttering, none of that matters. The stakes feel genuinely high here. Not just for Pearl Abyss, but for big budget action games in general. If Crimson Desert succeeds, if it proves you can have this level of scope and variety while maintaining quality across all of it, that sets a new standard. Other developers will look at it and think maybe we can be more ambitious. Maybe we don't have to play it safe. But if it fails, If the ambition collapses into a buggy, unfocused mess, that's ammunition for every publisher who wants to keep things conservative. Why take risks when you can just make another game in an established genre with proven mechanics and guaranteed audience? 7 days isn't a lot of time, but it's enough time for the conversation to shift from speculation to reality, from looking at trailers and trying to guess how it plays to actually knowing. I'm going in cautiously optimistic. The footage looks incredible. The scope is exactly the kind of ambition I want to see in big budget games. But I've been burned enough times by games that looked amazing in marketing and fell apart at launch that I'm not getting carried away yet. What I am doing is paying very close attention. Because whether this succeeds or fails, Crimson Desert is going to be significant. It's going to tell us something important about what's possible in open-world action games, and whether studios can successfully juggle this many systems without sacrificing quality. 7 days. That's all we've got left before one of the biggest gambles in recent gaming history either pays off spectacularly or crashes hard. And I cannot wait to see which one it is. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.